in the actual fun.
You must practice. Listen to me. You must practice. You must practice. You, sir, are a shit pilot. You're a shit pilot.
What the?
Yes, you're shit. You need to practice.
Calm down, bitch.
You're shit.
Are you a shit pilot?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a shit pilot for sure. But you are too.
Yeah, I'm a shit pilot.
Hey, we're live. This is FPV Spill the Tea. Look at how many guests we have today. They're all not supposed to be here, but somehow they found the link and they're here.
You need to change. It's too easy of a password.
Yeah, especially Chris. Look at him. Look at him. Chris, how did you find the link here?
I mean, when the password is password, it's not hard to guess.
All right, yeah. So, guys, what's happening today is it's a Wipedown, and we're discussing some kind of a hot topics of what happened in the last month. And I think the biggest news of the month is that Johnny 5 started flying with us again. He showed up at Sparks, he showed up at Night Spot, and I'm excited to see that. And Mr. Neil stopped flying with us. So it's kind of both, yeah. So we're gonna discuss just a little like what's on the agenda. We're gonna discuss Hypersmooth. Is it cheating to use Hypersmooth? We're gonna discuss Zipper, and Johnny 5 is the main hater of the Zipper, and we have here Chris Thomas and Mark, the inventors of Zipper. I hope Roger will also join us, the inventors of the Zipper, and they're gonna defend the Zipper in front of everyone. Then we're gonna discuss sandbagging and ice race. Who would have thought? Then we're going to discuss double elimination format. Then we're going to discuss Johnny 5. Let's see. Johnny 5 feeling spicy lately. So Johnny 5 will be attacking Velocidrone. And then we're going to discuss new 7-inch, new or old, nobody knows, 7-inch spec at Malta GP. See, Johnny 5 quit. This is fine.
How's that?
Yeah. So we're going to discuss new or old 7-inch spec at Malta GP, what's going to happen at I.O. And then if we have time, we're going to discuss for Beta Flight Release 4.5 and CAC special release. And that's going to do it. So the first one is we're going to discuss where we're going to start from, Neil. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you got it first on the list. We can talk about Hypersmooth first.
Yeah. So let me share my screen. And this is what happened recently. Mr. Patrick Watkins, we wanted to invite him, and I actually invited him, but he lives like in a way different time zone, and he's on vacation, he can't join. So this guy made a video that became pretty popular, and he stated very clearly there in that video that if you're freestyling and if you're using Hypersmooth, you're cheating. A lot of people... Yeah, a lot of people felt threatened by this, especially me. I like Hypersmooth. And let's...
I used to give you a lot of shit for Hypersmooth, though, when it first came out.
You did, yeah, you did. Yeah. And actually, I have a video of like me flying the track with Hypersmooth and without Hypersmooth. It's like somewhere on YouTube. And I don't think you really can tell much of a difference, because like you put clean props and like they kind of look the same. So, all right. So, Neil, I know you prepared some stuff. We also asked Mr. Superfly FPV. Let me show his picture. Because Mr. Patrick is like a Superfly FPV pilot. And this is Superfly FPV on the screen. And I also asked Superfly FPV, hey, like, can you like join instead of Patrick and defend his position? And Superfly FPV wanted to join, but it's 2 a.m. He lives in London, I think. And but he left us a little statement that he wants us to read, and we're gonna read it maybe a little bit later. So, but what's your thoughts, Mr. Neil, on using Hypersmooth?
Well, I guess it's come around a little bit, but in the very beginning, I kind of really thought, that it was. I guess I agree. In some ways, it was cheating a little bit because it does mask your stick moves, and honestly, it was like just thinking about you in particular. Like, you're already just so smooth on the sticks. Like, why put Hypersmooth over the top of it? Like you should be showing people just how good you are, and there's no reason to like smooth out what little corrections or whatever you may have. So I guess, and it was also just something to poke you with, and like we have a good time poking each other. That sounds really bad.
That's fair.
But yeah, it was just something to mess with you about, and so I think that's probably the biggest. But I guess over time, I don't have as strong feelings about it anymore. But I did see that this video that was made had like a ton of comments, and that there were a bunch of little freestyle pilots with their panties in a wad about it, and that makes me laugh.
You could make the same argument over like going from one flight controller to a better flight controller. Like it's cheating to fly a drone that has too good of a flight controller. You don't have like a really terrible PID loop. You're not a real pilot, you know. So it's just another tool.
Yeah. So like my point is that why I using Hypersmooth is that like right like at ice race we did this show race like kind of try to record the video of the Sharjah drones on the track, and like we had a very limited time, and it's like was like 3 hits maximum, and like everyone was waiting for us, and like if you mess up your prop, which I did, then the whole video is ruined, right? But if you're using Hypersmooth, you're good, and that's pretty much like case for all the videos I'm making, right? We don't have limited time to fly on the track. Like I want to fly my analog drones without GoPro, without DJI 3, and like you mess something up a little bit and then your video is ruined. But if you're using Hypersmooth, like you're good. So I don't know. So Neil, do you want to read that thing? So just to make it clear, so Mr. Superfly FPV, Mr. Stefan, he wrote it and he lives in London. Unfortunately, he couldn't join, so we need to make it as much authentic as possible.
So, official statement from Mr. Superfly. How dare you, sir, mock our noble cause? We are authentic freestylers from the grim streets where one does keep it real. With your jokes about maybe I should not fly a Toon Quad or maybe I don't use a PID controller, take it seriously, sir. Take heed of my rebuke on this matter. My trusted associate, FPV Patrick, is correct when he declared using Hypersmooth is indeed cheating. You may try to mock us, but you are racers at heart. Imagine your associate sent you a video image via Telegram to show you his prowess on the racing course. But little did you know, without telling you, he increased his speed by 10% after the fact. You would feel most aggrieved upon discovering this traitorous act. Therefore, I implore those who are serious about freestyle to learn the craft and share it with us true. Those who are serious about freestyle must uphold this virtue. And for those who like aren't serious and just want to have a nice, smooth, buttery video, like that's cool. No worries.
Mr. I think you could you might have had like a better British accent than Superfly FPV. Like Mr. Mark, if someone sends you a DVR video with 10% more speed than it actually has, would you think it's cheating? Would you do that? Like, maybe you are doing it with your DVRs?
I mean, I wish. I could maybe be in the upper sports then. But, I mean, it's like, what are you going for? You know, the Hypersmooth makes everything look good. It makes you better. And if you're a pilot trying to get a job, trying to promote yourself, you want to give the customer the best you can possibly give them. And sometimes you don't have time for multiple shots. And you need to be able to get that product the best you possibly can to make yourself look good. So, I mean, racing, luckily we have timers that can fudge all that, but, or, you know, debunk any kind of bad lap times. But I don't know, man. I think you got to do what makes you look good. I mean, that's why, you know, we dress nice when we go to drone races. It makes you faster when you have this jersey on, and you just got to do what you got to do to make yourself look good. So I'm like pro Hypersmooth. Make this hobby look awesome.
I love it.
So like all right, Johnny 5, this is a question to you. You feel spicy today. So Do you, like when you watch freestyle video, right? Let's try to talk about Daikon says.
So, all right, I would probably never watch a freestyle video, but if I did, and I guess I was a camera nerd way before I was a drone nerd. So to me, any method of stabilizing the footage is always good, right? Of course, you want to have a dolly or a gimbal or a slider or whatever. And the fact that we now have like software-based image stabilization is, and as good as it is awesome to me. So to me, like I always want the shot to look as good as possible. I will say that the guy who made that video, he did quote Slat, who is a pretty good freestyler, who said, you know what, Hypersmooth doesn't make the gap any bigger, which you could translate that to racers by saying Hypersmooth doesn't make the gates any bigger. So you still got to have the skills to put it through the track regardless of how smooth it looks. So I kind of agree with that, Cam.
But like, all right, so imagine like, well, some freestylers, right? Like they're not going through the gaps. They're doing Rubik's cubes and trippy spins, whatever guys you're doing. So if you're that type of a guy and you're using Hypersmooth, do you think it's cheating? Mr. Chris, what do you think?
We're talking about freestyle, right?
Yeah.
Why would you ask-
I know you're a weird guy to ask, but
I mean, to me, if you can't fly a race course, you can't freestyle either.
I kind of agree. Yeah. So I think like
Well, here, I'll weigh in on it, Yvonne.
yeah.
So I guess it's interesting to think about, if I'm going to play advocate here, like what does it mean to be a good freestyler? Like what does it mean to be a pro freestyler above and beyond a popularity contest? And it's supposed to be that you're measured by your stick inputs, right? That you're measured by whatever kind of flow you have, whatever kind of tricks you have in your arsenal, and however you're going to weave those together in and with and through the environment. So like, I would say that if you had two pilots that were of equal freestyle skill and one was using Hypersmooth to make a video, but then one was not, it would be more impressive to see somebody not use Hypersmooth and still have some buttery sick footage. So like, I could see how the argument can be made that if my video does not have Hypersmooth and yours does, but mine is still better than yours, then that's like that I'm just like throwing it on the table that much better than you, right? So like I can see where that argument can be made for sure.
But like
I've always viewed freestyle though more as art than of a competition. So trying to argue like, you know, you should use different paintbrushes or it's art, right? If someone likes what you made, it's good. And if somebody doesn't like what you made, it's not good. So trying to argue the rules of art competitions just seems odd.
So like Neil, like interesting, like I'm gonna like a little bit address what you said. So freestylers making videos, and there are two types of people watching. One type is also freestylers or other FPV guys, right? And the other type is like non-FPV people.
Yeah.
So for non-FPV people, I guess it doesn't really matter. Like they're just, oh, that's cool, and like, right, like
sure. Or they're like, oh my god, I feel sick.
Yeah, or so maybe Hypersmooth will make a little less sick the people that are not FPV, right? So it cannot make it worse for them, right? Sure. So now let's talk about the people who understand something in FPV, like other freestylers. So when you're watching, Neil is also freestyler a little bit, right?
Sure.
He's more of a racer, but Neil is pretty decent freestyler. So when you're watching someone's video, you realize when he uses Hypersmooth, right? Most of the time. And in that case, do you really think that Hypersmooth hides a lack of skills? Like,
no, it doesn't.
So it's not cheating then. Like, if it doesn't hide anything, then it's not cheating. Like, I'm with you. Like, if someone uses Hypersmooth and he doesn't have skills, you like Hypersmooth is not gonna give you skills. Like, your video is still gonna look like garbage. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, that's true. I can't argue against that.
And I like that. That's my bullet point. Like, Hypersmooth is not going to give you skill. It's not going to fake anyone that you have skills. Like, it's not cheating, right? Like, it might hide your skills of like not being able to tune and not being able to swap your props when they're damaged, right? But like that's not really the skill people should brag about. Like, I mean, who cares if you have skills for tune or not?
Yeah.
Like, it's just boom.
I can see some masking though of skills with Hypersmooth, because when you watch really, really skilled pilots, not only are they crazy precise, they also have a set cadence to their roll and their pitch, and everything just seems to work in a very instinctual rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's like part of the development of skill of a pilot. So I could see someone who maybe hasn't yet mastered things masking some of those things with Hypersmooth. But again, I mean, ultimately,
like if someone has jittery fingers, like that he didn't put enough stick time.
Yeah.
And he needs Hypersmooth to smooth out his video, but it's not gonna trick pilots who understand stuff.
You can't smooth it all out. You can only smooth out
yeah, like you will see that he's not precise in his moves even with Hypersmooth. That doesn't really matter. Unless you Hypersmooth the whole thing, so it's like horizon is stabilized completely, right? And then you just, like, I don't think. All right, so I see Mr. Roger is here, and Mr. Roger is also inventor of Zipper. He's also inventor of ZPQ, and he is also inventor of Sandbagging. No, that's not. So, Mr. Roger, how is it going?
Oh, it's going really well. Sorry for the venue. I'm in a Mexican restaurant in Salt Lake City.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Right. So, so we have on our agenda to discuss the Zipper and what's happening for global qualifiers. So for those who doesn't know, this season MultiGP has 2 tracks for global qualifiers. So everyone who want to compete in MultiGP will have to build 2 tracks, one for spring and one for summer. And then it's basically will be 2 lists of pilots, how they qualify on both tracks, and then it's gonna be like a zipper of merging these 2 separate lists, and that's how we get one big list. And Mr. Johnny5 and also Mr. Joe Mom on our local Discord chat, they were really hating on this format. Mr. Johnny5, what's your point on this?
Well, I think everyone at first was pretty confused, and I think that was like the main source of angst for everyone. Is like, wait, how does this work? What does it do? And then everyone was making spreadsheets to try to explain it, and Jordo was trying to explain it to us, and we were still struggling to understand it. So then 2 things kind of came about that people were saying. One, a lot of people were saying, like, who cares how it works or what the score is going to be? We're going to get to fly 2 tracks instead of 1. And so that's good for all of us. And I actually agree with that. I think that part is good for us. It's going to be more variation in the tracks that people are grinding. I always try to think about the beginners, and I like the format of having 1 track per year, just because Bardwell or whoever does their once a year flight on the GQ can encourage other new pilots. Look, you find your way to anywhere in the world where they're running this, fly at one time, even if that's the only race you do every year, and now you are ranked against every other drone pilot in the world. And my fear, and I hope that I'm wrong, but my fear was the complexity of the new Zipper system. If we're struggling to understand it as racers that have been flying 6, 7, 8, 10 years, is it going to be very difficult to instruct a new person that might just say, you know what, I'm just going to stick to my freestyling with Hypersmooth on and not show up to that first race? That's my fear.
We certainly hope that isn't the case, because part of that format is the reason behind this was we found that the global qualifiers were always the most attended races of chapters. So clearly global qualifiers drive traffic to chapters. And so we wanted to be able to help drive additional traffic to chapters. But then there's that complaint of, we grind the same qualifier all year, and that's no fun. So we said, hey, let's have 2 different tracks. So now you have to solve the problem of how do you have 2 different tracks, but yet still come up with a leader. And how the zipper mechanism will work is each track, you'll get a ranking. We'll have a ranking for the spring season, and you'll have a ranking for the summer season. And whichever season you rank best, that's the going to be the definitive one for you. That's the one for you that's going to be used. So if you do really poorly on one and you're ranked 600, and you do the other one and you're 300, your 300 is going to be the one that gets used, not the 600. So you always think of that. It's going to use your best result relative to the others on that same track. Is the whole idea behind how the zipper works. So it's sort of nice. It doesn't require that you do both tracks. You can only do one if you want, which is another thing that we didn't want to have happen, was is require everybody to do both tracks. So whichever one you do higher on, that's the one that will be used. And your placement in the final zipped up list will fall usually below that, but it depends. So if in worst case scenario, say there's 10 people in the world that participate, there's only 10 people. If the same 10 people both run both tracks, well, actually, then you'll have, what is it? The top person will get, first and first, second and second, third and third. So your total ranking will be, well, obviously there's only 10 people, you're going to be in the top 10. If it's 10 different people, so 10 people do track one and 10 completely different people do the other track, which is not really going to happen. You're always going to have duplicates. But in theory, if 10 people do one track and 10 completely other people do the other track, your worst position that you could be in is 20. So it's basically your position time 2 is your theoretical worst, but there's so many people that are going to run duplicates. You'll always be better than the theory.
Yeah. So I think that's a good point. So Mr. Johnny 5, I see you're laughing. So you're attacking Zipper and this algorithm, but do you really understand it? Let's check. So imagine you qualified number 1 on track 1, and then Minchan qualified number 2 on track 2. What will be your position overall?
I can't imagine I would beat Minchan regardless of what place I got.
Well, no,
but I don't know. I don't know.
If you're number 1 on track 1, then you're guaranteed in the top 2 spots. You'll either be first or second overall.
Do we know?
Which? Start this way. Think of it this way. There's 2 lists, right? We got 2 GQs. We're going to start in the summer GQ, so the one that we haven't set up yet. To build the combined list, we're going to take that number 1 pilot, who's ever in the number 1 spot of the summer GQ, and that will be number 1 on the combined list. Then we're going to jump over to the spring GQ, the one that we've got set up. Look at who's number 1. If that's a different pilot, then they are now number 2 on the combined list. Now we're going to jump back over to the summer GQ. Who's number 2? Is that pilot the same as number 1 on that track, or which it won't be, or number 1 on the other track? No. Then we're going to take that pilot. So it's a zipper going back and forth like this. Now, if we get to a point where the pilot has already been on the combined list, we just skip that list and come back to the other GQ. So what Roger is trying to say there is, whatever place you finish in, your highest ranking on either track, the worst case scenario on the combined list will be that place doubled. And that will only happen if the pilots above you on both lists are completely different. The best case scenario on the combined list is your highest rank on either GQ, and that's it.
Right.
So the best you can do is where you ranked your highest. The worst you can do is where you ranked times 2. Most likely with the scenarios we ran, it's going to be like 1.3, 1.4 times your ranking is where you're going to be on the combined list. So if you want to go to champs, 150 pilots get pro invites, right? That's how we usually done. That's how we're going to do it. If you rank number 75,
that's a guarantee.
You're guaranteed to go into champs. And that's really what pilots need to know, right? That's the cutoff. So you need to get 75 or better, and then don't worry about it. If you're not 75 or better, just go faster. And that's what you need to worry about. And put your Hypersmooth on, and go faster and speed up that DVR.
I like it.
I try to just like the gist of what you need on race day. When your chapter organizer says, "All right, we uploaded the data, and you are now 74," you're golden. You're going. You got it. You may be invited to champs.
And you'll be able to see this ranking the instant it gets uploaded to MultiGP. So this ranking will always be calculated. So as soon as the race gets posted to MultiGP, the combined list is updated automatically. So you'll be able to instantly see where you are.
And one of the questions that someone asked here in the chat was, do you have to run both? And that's a really good question. And that is something that Roger worked hard on, and as well Chris did too, to make sure that no, you don't. It takes your highest ranking. So if you only want to do one track, or you only can do the weather or your chapter or whatever, you only need to run one track, and then that's good enough. And that's because the different chapters have different flying seasons and whatever happens. And then as a bonus, if you go to IO this year, not only can you run the spring GQ right when you get there and slam down 10 packs real quick before you hit those champ size gates. At the end, we're going to have the summer GQ up before any other chapter. So at IO, you could actually run both GQs.
All right, Mr. Johnny 5, do you understand now the zipper?
I think I get it. That it's much more clear, but I think for simplicity's sake, we just stick with the same message for newcomers. Just show up to whatever qualifier you can manage to travel to. Get ranked, even if you don't fly another race. It's fun to do, and you can at least benchmark yourself year after year the same way like Bardwell does and see if you're faster than him. And I think that makes it a little bit simpler. We don't have to change that message. You'll still get a rank, however it's calculated in the background. And now for the racing people, just go watch the 2 minutes of this video and you'll understand it. And I think the whole time we could see it was going to be more fun for us because now we don't have to worry about flying the same track 5 or 10 times. I would never fly GQ more than 2 or 3, but I know like Yvonne and Neil, like you guys have flown what, 6 or 8 in a year, some years probably.
Yeah, I've flown a lot some years. Yeah, I like to travel also to other GQ. How do you feel about
2 different tracks? Does that make you happy?
I mean, I'm a track guy, so like I'm happy to see more tracks than less tracks. So that's an easy one for me to get behind for sure.
Nice. Same for me, even though I'm not a track guy, I like to bitch about tracks, but like it means I can do double more bitching, which I did already. So like I'm happy with that. And actually, like because 1 year I remember I was planning to qualify as high as possible. That was 2017 or something. I think I ended up like number 3 in the list or something. That was crazy. And I traveled to like 10 different GQs, and they were all the same track. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't super nice, because at least if it were 2 tracks, that was more fun for me. And I don't really think it's complicated. Just if there's someone in the chat that still don't understand how it works, just imagine in your head you have 2 separate lists of ranking pilots. How do you combine them together? Well, you just that's it. And if in the combined list there's a pilot that there is twice in this list, then you just remove his bottom position. Like that's it. Like that's
yeah.
And if you want to see, just for fun, I did like a zipper in Google Sheets for Global Qualifier 2023 and the Global Qualifier 2022. How do I add this to stage? Yeah. So we have 2 lists. This is 2023. You see Hyper was first, MCK second, then Mavr FPV third. And this is the 2022. So I made this zipper with a priority for 2023 because 2023 is kind of like more recent. And then basically like this column is basically what I just said. You just combine these 2 lists together. And then this column is just removing the duplicates, because you can see like MCK is now in this list twice. And I just removed his bottom position, and that's it. And then basically we have a final list. And if you want to see some results, like this is, I'm going to drop this link. I'm going to drop link in the chat for this Google document.
I always felt bad that you did all that work because I had already created the technique to do that for you. So.
All right, cool, yeah.
Oh, but Yvonne gets off on that type of stuff, so he's good. He got to tap on his keyboard and
yeah. I had to ask ChatGPT how to make these crazy formulas, but Yeah, like it's easy to explain to ChatGPT, but hard to make ChatGPT to work properly. So, and this is like the whole list. You see, Hyper ended up number 1 because he was first in 2023, and MCK was first in 2022. And this is kind of just like some of the local guys. You see, linearized Dave because he likes linearized StreetLeague RPM limiter. That's why he's linearized. And you can see in 2023 he ended up 160, and 2022 he was 253. So his 253 position drops out. It doesn't matter. And his final rank is 217. Like this is just his final position. And you can also kind of think like, because in 2023 there was 900 pilots qualified. In 2023 I think it was like 700 pilots, but overall the total list is like 1,200, almost 300 pilots. So if you're positioned 160 among like 900 pilots, then you are approximately 200 within 1,200 pilots. So the zipper kind of doing the same as scaling, but so I think it's kind of interesting. So you see, I ended up kind of poor, number 6 in 2023, but in 2022 I was 36. And my 36th position, when you scale it up for like a global list, becomes 52. Mr. MBA, who still doesn't understand how zipper works, in 2023 he was faster than in 2022, and his final position is 207. I keep saying 1,000 instead of 100. Yeah, and so we have Cole with a wing, and because he has wing, he qualified 2023. He qualified 251, and then his final and he qualified better in 2022. So his final position 315. And Mr. Grower, you can see he beat me in 2000. He beat me in 2023. He qualified basically 1 ahead of me. But that doesn't count. But that doesn't count here because in 2022 I qualified 36, which was very good. And in 2022 he qualified only 42. So his final position is lower than mine. So I still beat Neil.
So that's why you wanted to show this spreadsheet.
Exactly. Yeah. All this talk, guys. The whole live stream was just to show that I still beat Neil.
So, any new format we come up with, as long as we can make it such that Ivan beats Neil, then we'll get.
Then he's good with it.
Yeah, I'm good.
If it doesn't work out that way, we're gonna have to have a whole live stream just to hear him bitch about it. So,
Vaughn, at MultiGP, guys, we had the idea of either making it where you had to run both and we combined your times together, or you could run one and not the other. We wanted to make like the lowest barrier to entry, but we still had to figure out how to make the duplicate list work, which is the purpose. And our goal is to try to help give chapters activities every year to make it fun and keep activities happening at the chapters that pilots go and want to attend. So that's been a big focus at MultiGP, is making sure we support chapters.
Whatever he just said, that's true. Oh, we got Mr. Sean joining us. We got like the whole MultiGP Concilium today.
You had sent me the thing and invited me, and I like got busy and I wasn't able to jump on. And I get in, and it's like everyone else from work is here. I didn't realize it was like a
yeah,
surprise intervention.
I clicked the link.
Yeah, all right. So, Mr. Sean, since you missed a few things, are you against using Hypersmooth in freestyle, or you like using Hypersmooth for freestyle? Like, what if someone uses Hypersmooth? Like, what do you think?
Why are they flying freestyle? I don't understand.
Yeah, all right, that's a fair point. Also, do you like Zipper? Do you like Zipper for GQ 2024?
I love it. Yeah, I think it's the best possible solution.
That is BS. You used to argue with me about Zipper when you were in Focus as a pilot. We've been in some good Zipper arguments.
The zipper for champs on 2 different tracks was a bad idea. The zipper for the GQ is a great idea. It's not the same. There's nuances.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, guys. A quick thing. So you see at the very bottom of the live stream, there's shit.pilot.live at gmail.com. If you want to join our live stream, show your face, show your voice. You have something funny to say, drop me email right now, and we will just add you. I'll send you a link.
Spit.pilot.
Hey, Chris,
Speed.pilot.
is there something you need to tell Phil? Chris, do you see that on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Let me fix
tell
it.
Phil to shut up.
Phil, the adults are talking right now.
Yeah.
Let me see. Why is a speed pilot?
I don't know.
So it's shit.pilot.live@gmail.com. Let me edit again. Just make sure you have your pants on and don't say too much of a curse words. Yeah.
It's not okay to be here right now without my pants on.
Well, as long you're good. As long.
Just don't stand up.
Yeah. All right. So now we're moving to another topic: sandbagging and ice race. So, Mr. Sean, what do you think? Or just overall, how was ice race? As you're a MultiGP chief officer, what's your assessment of the ice race?
I'm the integrator at MultiGP, but the ice race was incredible. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely icy and cold. Competition was really crazy. But yeah, I think I saw nothing but smiles and good times around. There was some stuff, right? You were talking about the sandbagging. That's disappointing.
Well, first thing I want to make it a little bit spicy. Why we didn't have RPM limit for tiny trainers? Because
that's a question for Mark. We'll let Mark take that one.
Mark,
Okay.
what the heck?
Well, I know, right? I always got to be the brake pedal, I guess. But tiny trainer with the RPM limit is awesome. I mean, it flies great. It runs great. Lasts a long time. But what we found with Mayhem is even though pilots don't flash their firmware to the night before a race, they're still going to bitch about having to flash firmware to 2 months prior to that. So with the time that we had to announce the official tiny trainer spec, because we noticed it wasn't on the Ice Storm page, we felt it was too short of a time for pilots to have to go and flash a new firmware, make sure the RPM filter works, make sure their tune is right, and all that kind of stuff. So we just went with what we did last year. Now, moving forward into next year, I do think we will look at that and make sure that's out with enough time for pilots. I mean, you guys know MultiGP is an expert at communication, and so we want to continue that trend moving forward. So that was the main reason. We just didn't feel that the pilots had enough time to adequately prepare.
I would say that MultiGP is experiencing exponential growth in our quality of communication.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So all right. So basically, if you want to make RPM limit tiny trainers for next ice race, then you have to announce it now. Otherwise,
maybe it should be in the official MultiGP software, Ivan.
Yeah, it's fine.
But would that prevent
chat from EDOC? He says, "Why add RPM limit to tiny trainers? It's like the perfect speed spec right now. It doesn't need to be made slower."
Yeah,
I don't think it's specifically to make it slower. It's to make them all exactly the same.
Yes.
And also that because I was flying this, the track was fine. I really like the track, and it wasn't too long. But if you run pretty fast, you're just risking that if your battery is not fresh, you're not gonna finish it. And we've seen some fast pilots didn't finish 3 laps, right? Then if you add a little bit of RPM limit, not slow down it too much, but it's kind of then you can finish, and then you don't have to slow down because everyone else already slowed down. So you can say all right, Ivan, you can slow down and then you finish 3 laps, right? But then someone with a fresher battery or a bigger battery, he will just beat me, right? And I don't like that.
That was the secret. The battery is what gave a couple quads a significant advantage, and it was legal. There's nothing shady or anything about it. It's just they knew how to maximize that spec.
I didn't even know that people buying the bigger batteries and making their drones lighter. I didn't even know that's a thing until 3 days before Ice Storm. It's oh damn, all the fast guys flying big batteries and light drones. I'm still flying stock batteries and tiny trainer. So I showed up with
There is a misconception too, and one reason, because we did have a conversation internally about whether or not to do RPM limit, and what it came down to was literally let's look and see what's on 533's website. That was the thing, is that what was tiny trainer spec according, what was published as tiny trainer spec. But the reason I really didn't choose to die on that hill is really RPM spec is kind of useless if the differential between the capped drone and the uncapped drone are too close, and that's honestly how it is with Tiny Trainer currently, we probably need to run like 4S batteries or 5S, probably 4S batteries on a Tiny Trainer with a RPM limit, unless we make it a lot slower. Otherwise, it's prolonging the effects of the battery to the last 30 seconds of the flight versus the first 15 seconds of the flight. It's like it really doesn't do much unless there's a nice differential between the performance of the drone without the RPM limit and the performance of the drone with the RPM limit. So it's
I
kind
think
of nerdy there.
I think it's also fine. Like if you don't slow it down too much, whatever is like, let's say current like the RPM without RPM limiter is 40K, and if you make it 35K, I'd be still fine with that. You're not slowing it down too much. At the end of the battery, it doesn't matter. But at least at the beginning, you're not going to drain your battery fast. You're just going to fly longer. And everyone will be of the same speed, right? You're giving full throttle, everyone same speed. And like, I would love that. Like, you don't have
to be clear too, like the Tiny Trainer thing is spec racing or stock racing. Like it is. It's just not RPM limited. Like it's still the thing. Unpopular opinion, when Mondo and Evan first released Tiny Trainer, I actually highly advocated it for it to be 2S. I thought it was a lot more fun on 2S. It felt like Freedom Spec or
Neil would like that.
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun.
Slow quads.
Yeah, slow quads.
I'm getting old.
Because it was like it was supposed to be a tiny DRL Racer 4, right? And it felt too fast for that, But no, it's still a lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah, I think too. If in the future, Yvonne Sisson, we're going to announce that whenever. If we could get, the spec in a standard beta flight release that's standard, right? So whatever, I don't know who's in charge of Tiny Trainer, if that's Evan or Mondo or whoever, but we get that as set in the firmware, so people don't have to type in weird things to get it in beta flight. It just kind of comes up with the same kind of theory we had for the Mayhem, where it just checks everything and then a little icon pops up. That would make it really easy, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the CACs and all the different firmwares are different, right? The way the RPM limiter works. I mean, StreetLeague is different, obviously. I think the old CAC, the Mayhem CAC, is different in how that limiter works. And if we don't have it set right, and people are in different firmwares where the throttles are acting differently, and maybe the RPM limit is also acting differently, I don't know the code, that could give someone an advantage or a disadvantage that they didn't even know they were imposing on themselves. So I think that would be something that maybe another good reason to have a standard of like what Tiny Trainer spec is in the firmware. Makes it really simple then.
Well, to defend the CAC firmware and currently the 4.5, because it has a RPM limiter without CAC, like there are improvements in RPM limit, but they're all basically the same speed. They were the same speed right from the beginning. So whatever, if you fly the old CAC, you still having the same speed. It's just the improvements of the initial prediction. But that doesn't matter. Like you like the moment you hit full throttle, it's all gone. Like your initial prediction doesn't matter.
So if it's in 4.5, could you start adding those different RPM specs to the presets library?
Yeah, so basically that's what I'm doing now. Like we were discussing Sean. That was a little bit for the end of our discussion, but we can talk about it. So basically, currently you can flash CAC and 4.5. It will have all the like quick menu and all the other stuff and some other like LED features. But also I'm working now that there will be like a spec menu where you just select which specs you want to run, and it just sets for you, and then it will spin a little logo for every spec you have. If it's like a 7-inch awesome. Spec, if it's like a Freedom spec, and so it will be all.
I did think though, anytime that firmware changes, though, we'll have to do a new emblem, right? Because, right?
If the change matters.
Like what?
If the change matters, certainly, right? Because you can't have two that spin, two IOs that spin. And if they're, one's a 2024 IO and one's a 2025 IO, if they're significantly different, we'll have to come up with a different emblem that spins, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty confident in RPM limit that whatever RPM limit is coming in future, it's not going to make you faster, right? It might change a little bit initial prediction or something, but it's not going to make you faster. So we'll see how that goes. But
would any of these RPM limits, though, eliminated all the bags of sand at the ice race, though. That's what we really want to know.
Yeah, that's what we were. All right, so in particular, so I wanted to invite Seth in the, to defend himself. So apparently, in case guys, someone you don't know who is watching, so ice race is a big multi-GP race. It happens in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and it's a race inside of a big ice ring. It's very fancy, and the local Montessori school really puts a good job there. There is prize money that you can win. It was like $3,000 for first place, and even more for open class. Was it $4,000 or something? So
25,000 total.
Yeah, so 25,000 total, and even because there is a group of so if you qualify top 16, then you race within top 16. If you qualify within the next 16, then you only race against next 16. And basically, the first place in the next 16 is basically like a number 17, right? So number 17 overall gets more money than number 16. Because number 17 won next 16, right? This is the whole double elimination format.
Twice as much money.
Yeah. Twice as much. I think it was like 500.
No. 500 versus 250.
Yeah. So, and basically, there is a legit strategy. If you want money and you're a pretty fast pilot, you can qualify for top 16, but then chances you're going to win top 16 are pretty small. So you can slow yourself down in the next, yourself down in the qualifying, and then you qualify in the next 16, and then you beat all the kids there, and you get money in your pocket, right? And so a lot of people, not me, we're not going to point fingers, they were saying that that Mr. Seth did exactly that. So Seth used to be a very fast pilot. He qualified in a pro class for like how many years before? He's
a legitimate OG famous YouTuber, actually.
Yes.
Point that out too. Like he's one of the OG famous YouTubers.
Yeah, and he flies line of sight
than all of us combined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he flies line of sight awesome, right? And he's
terrifyingly. Yeah.
I don't think if he can be qualified as a robot now, but he certainly was a robot. Like he could beat a lot of very fast pilots. Like Evan had to struggle to beat him. And so what happened? So he qualified number 17, right? And basically he ended up with the tiny trainers in the next 16 bracket. And then he beat everyone there. And as people were watching, because his qualifying lap time was like 33, 35, but then when the finals came in, he was putting laps like 28 seconds laps, right? And so a lot of people were saying, oh, you're sandbagging and stuff. So I wanted to invite him to this live stream, but he said he's busy. He's in the gym right now. Maybe he will maybe he will join us from the gym. But I also approached him at the ice storm, and I have a little video. Let me share it real quick.
By the way, big thanks, Kevin. Welcome to the stream, and thank you once again for the super chat. You are awesome.
Yeah.
Quad Dog, Mr. Quad Dog.
Quad Dog, keeping the streak alive.
Kevin is the OG, baby.
Now, didn't he also rank in a similar position ice race the year before?
He did.
Oh.
So this is the video. Like you can also hear Joe Scully, so maybe like you won't be able to hear much what we're saying because Joe Scully is so loud, it's crazy. And let's listen.
For loss.
Mr. Seth.
Alien, you're good where you are, which I believe is race band 3.
Nope.
And you are up right now when you're ready.
Your left eye was
versus
pretty
walk back
good.
control
Like,
and
for
set
next
PV.
I love pressure.
I want to thank a few more of our local corporate and national partners to the 2024 Ice Storm Drone Racing Competition.
In the
Thank our friends at
elimination is a lot of random, so you cannot
also,
predict that.
VMO and Harris one for loss.
All right, so basically he said, if it was hard to hear, basically what he said, he did not sandbag, and he repeated that also for me in the private messages on Facebook. And also he even shared with me a DVR, so we can watch his DVR maybe a little bit later. Anyways, so what do you think, Mr. Sean? Did he sandbag?
I overheard him saying he was upset that he was still in the top 16 on qualifying day. I can't prove that. I don't have a recording of it. And he could have just been like joking around, but I heard him complaining that, hey, so-and-so, why are you going so slow? Like, you need to get ahead of me. I'm still in the top 16. I'm 95% certain I heard that. And that's, you know, I'm having a hard time. Even still, he could have made that joke and still not intentionally sandbagged. It's really hard to judge intent, right? And but it seemed like he was like doing it for the memes. It kind of felt like, you know, he was, you know, maybe there was some intentionality to it. Not to say he's always done that. I know he's always kind of qualified in that top part of the sport class, you know, here in these recent events. But the other thing I want to point out to the yeah, let's talk about
OSD.
Inappropriate OSD maybe.
That is
race for children.
Yeah, that was a next topic, but we can talk about this later. So just to make it clear, whatever I'm showing right now, our live stream is not associated with that. It's just a DVR for scientific reasons to assess how fast Seth is. Is he good enough to be in the next 16, or he like purposely slows down?
He was even taking the pro line on the dive gauge. You see that? Like,
yeah, nobody
that was
took
not.
Yeah.
Like, he was taking the pro line, bro.
But you can see he's making some mistakes. You can see he's not very comfortable with the sticks. I don't think you can fake that. You know what I mean? Like this line is not so good. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of slow a little bit.
All that protein powder makes you a little jittery, I think.
Yeah. It's the creatine.
But to make it clear, I think this was most likely his first bracket round, and it was like 33 seconds laps, 32, and his like final rounds were in the brackets was like 28 second laps. So he went way faster. And also to defend him a little bit, he also said that he didn't race for a very long time. And of course, if you haven't raced for a very long time, you need a little bit of stick time to remember your skills. So I can see that you haven't raced for a long time, the whole year. Then you show up and you will be very slow for the first 20 packs, and then you will, and then you'll get back your skills pretty quick after 20 packs. And so I can see that. And like, what are you gonna do? Like, you can qualify after 20 packs for pro class. But you can't right now. Like, you're gonna go to like a race manager and say, listen, I know I must be in top 16, but I can't right now. What are they gonna do about it? Like, and then you're risking that people gonna accuse you for sandbagging, right? Like, what? It's tough.
Is it a legit strategy? Yes or no? Like, I know some people, like, drone racing is not free, so some people might say, I'd rather have $500 than $250. I know you wouldn't, because I've seen you give away sponsorships and other things. Like, you want that better trophy, and you're always going to try. Pretty much everybody from in town, like, they're always going to try to win no matter what. But I don't necessarily fault anybody for, you know what, I'm probably not going to make the podium, so maybe I should take. Like, what do you guys think? I think it's bad form as far as like competitive spirit, but as far as like legit prize per strategy, like, I can't fault it too bad.
I would actually say, I think, and so Mark and I worked collaboratively on the prize pool payouts. Ultimately, what was done was something Roger put together. And I'm not saying that to like throw Roger under the bus. We liked it better. Me and Mark were like, oh, what Roger made, that was way better than what we'd come up with. And to defend the idea of 17th getting more than 16th, I will say it's an order of magnitude harder to get 17th than it is to get 16th.
I agree with that.
Because, as Lamone says, and I don't necessarily agree with all of Lamone's assertions about brackets being random, you do have to have everything go right, and you're risking it, to get, you're giving up the idea of guaranteeing 250 for like maybe the 50% shot, even if at the end, Seth was a solid 10 seconds a lap faster than his competition. But even in that instance, it's still drone racing, and you're really flipping a coin whether or not you're going to be able to make it all the way to the win. So, I mean, I don't know that it's like a dollar and cents strategy. I think it could legitimately be more fun. I'm sure he had a lot more fun winning that bracket or trying to win that bracket than he would have, going 2 and out in the pro bracket. I mean, and I'm one. My Costa Rica race, Johnny 5. I know you were there. Well, all you guys, well, several of you, Lamone and Grower too. I ended up in the next bracket on that one. I still got second, but I kind of felt like I was hitting below my weight, on that one. But I just had a bad day qualifying. Even at Ice Storm this year, I actually, I qualified like 12th and got 5th. So, I mean, I sort of sandbagged, like not all the way down to a different bracket, but I performed really poorly in qualifying, and that kind of stuff happens. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going to say if he's sandbagged or not. I don't really know. It's hard to judge intent. And
yeah,
he's. I mean,
are you going to talk bad about that guy right there?
He squat more than I can squat, so I'm good to go with that part. Because I'm probably gonna see him at IO. We don't need anything happening there.
He literally just sent it to me. He said 385 LBS set for proof.
Dang.
Nice.
But it did have a couple effects on the race. I mean, the way we set the payouts up, nobody knew what the payouts were until the bracket started. So he shouldn't. There weren't. He didn't know he was going to win what he was going to win until that payout came out. He might have an idea, but if you were in the top 16, you were guaranteed to win money. If you were in the next 16, you weren't. So he was running a risk to not be in there, and you saw him crash. So that's a risk there.
So I think there's a couple of ways we address this, whether it was intentional or not, which shouldn't happen again, right? He's won the next brackets. I think next year, like that's sort of an instant graduation into the next bracket. I'm a big believer that once you make it to pro, you're stuck in pro forever.
That's true, but how do you do that, right? So 16 people qualified.
You do it through spreadsheets. You just did a spreadsheet.
Well, 16 people qualified for top 16, all right? And then there is one pilot who is pro class. How do you add number 17 in there?
16 goes down if he's not pro.
Or he's disqualified, right?
I would imagine the guy who in that tiny trainer class was 16th probably should have been in the next brackets.
So imagine a person like me. I can imagine me. I'm not the fastest pilot out there, but I want to be in the top 16 bracket, right? Even though I might not win it. I fly very hard, and I'm so proud of myself of being number 16. So I moved to top 16, and then there is a Seth that suddenly replaces me. You know what I mean? How do you solve that?
You don't. You tell you, and you can wipe your tears on the jersey.
So all right. So basically, it means the top 16 pilots from previous year are already qualified for next 16, and there will be only a few spots for new pilots to qualify for top 16.
Good question. But I mean, I think if we know a pilot is for whatever reason, there's something. So in his case, I don't believe he put in 3 consecutive laps. I believe he ended up in that bracket because he did not complete 3 consecutive laps. So it was actually a 2-lap finish. So that should have been the first warning sign that this person may be misqualified. The idea of qualifying is not to go in and say oh, well, you had a bad run, so you're lower qualified. It's really to determine what are the different skills of the pilots to put them in the appropriate group.
Mr. Chris, what position you are on the global leaderboard?
What I mean, hold on, let me go edit it real quick.
Roger.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move a little bit from there because we also need to discuss a little bit double elimination. But I think we're talking too much about racing already. Well, next one is still racing, but a little bit different form. Yeah. So the next topic. Let me share my screen. So now, if you open,
is it a graph?
It's almost. So if you open MaltaGP website, You can see Mari and Leviathan from Ice Storm, but you go to races and there is no Street League anymore. There's 7-inch race. We don't want to talk about, like, we have a whole MultiGP Concilium here, so it wouldn't be fair to discuss like what exactly happened. But we want to discuss about what is going to happen. Mr. Sean or anyone else, can you tell us what's going to happen at International Open? Are we going to have a Street League there, or what's the deal?
You want to take this one, Sean? Or you want me to?
I mean, do we want to? I mean,
I don't know, because Henry's.
We can talk about it, but it hasn't been officially announced. So should we spill some tea?
Yeah, just announce it here right now.
It's going out tomorrow, so
like just a free taste
preview. Tonight. It's only 80 people
I'm
watching.
Down.
I'm
the tea.
I mean,
well, we're super excited about it. Obviously, we're disappointed that we no longer have a promotional agreement, not a partnership agreement, but a promotional agreement with Street League, and so we're not in a position that we can hold a Street League race at IO. But since all of that happened, MultiGP's identified that we need to come up with what our end goal of a 7-inch spec is going to be, because we think 7-inch spec racing will be really cool for the future. But we didn't feel like it was fair to try to launch that at IO. It was a little too quick. So at IO, we're going to be doing kind of a temporary, we're calling it IO spec, a 7-inch spec racing for IO that is very compatible. It's designed to be very compatible with current Street League setups. Essentially, it's all the same. If a frame's legal for Street League, it's legal for IO. If a motor's legal for Street League, it's also legal for IO. It is a different firmware. So Avon is working on releasing the official MultiGP firmware, where there will be an IO spec setting, and it's also going to be the same weight, same battery. Okay. The other thing is that you won't have an option for, in Street League currently there's 2 props you have the option of. This one there will be just 1 prop that likely will be provided for free anyway, but it'll just be 1 prop, a different firmware, and essentially all the same gear you currently run in Street League is the plan for the IO spec. That race is going to be on Wednesday. Qualifying will be on Wednesday, and the finals will be Wednesday night. There will be a next 24 late afternoon, and then a top 24 bracket after dark. So we're super stoked about that. So that is that's not the future of MultiGP spec by any means, but that is what we're going to do at IO. And we're excited. We know people really enjoy racing 7-inch, so it's not our intent to shut that down or not allow it. And obviously there's people that probably bought tickets to IO thinking that they could race Street League, so we didn't want to put a whole bunch of new or different requirements on them. I mean, and plus on the firmware side, they need to flash a new firmware, but they were already flashing firmware from a random Google Drive. So I doubt that it's, it feels any less safe to flash the MultiGP commit in Betaflight proper. So that's the rundown on 7-inch spec racing at IO. Oh, not only that, but I think Friday, Mark, you can confirm on Friday, there's also going to be a 7-inch race, with these same rules, IO spec race on the main stage. So this year you'll get the opportunity to race more than 1 track if you're flying 7-inch at IO. So cool. that is a spec race rundown. Mark or Chris, do you want to do like the Billy Mays deal? But wait, there's more.
But wait, order now. And coming to you live from Muncie, Indiana, there's a special offer that we'll turn it back over to Mr. Sean Ames to give you the details. But there's limited stock, so
yeah,
I am on the phone, ready to take your call.
I wonder
guys, Freedom Spec at IO, because there's like a few people asking. Amari, T-Bell asking, what about Freedom Spec at IO? And Props Off asking about X-Class.
Yeah, so at this point, we're not planning on there being an official Freedom Spec event at IO. But there's more is actually the thing that's taking the place of Freedom Spec this year at IO. Freedom Spec is something that's very near and dear to my heart, obviously. When we did that, it was something that obviously I kind of spearheaded with with Armando and Evan. We wanted to prove that spec racing was fun, and how could we do that with the lowest barrier of entry possible? And that's what we set out to do with Freedom Spec. And I'm really proud of the fact that it inspired more and more and more spec racing. Because after Freedom Spec, obviously there was now we have Tiny Trainer Spec. Now we have UWL. Obviously, have the 7-inch stuff that happens. Like, I think it's we've won the battle that spec racing's fun. And so at this point now we can kind of graduate to the next, the future of what spec racing is. In regard to Freedom Spec, I still encourage people to do that RPM spec concept at their chapters for fun, do their thing. But
it's fun, yeah.
I have a limited number of hours in the day. And especially in drone racing and in multi-GP, there's no shortage of great ideas. There's so many good ideas, but we have to focus on the things that make sense and are going to move the needle for the hobby is what, we at multi-GP are committed to. So in regard to my time being devoted to Freedom Spec this year, I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'm more than happy to pass the reins off to anyone else who would want to take that on. Like, I don't feel any sort of ownership of it. It's like it's something that belongs to us as drone racing, and so that's that. But does anyone want to hear about the really cool thing that's so cool that we're not going to have Freedom Spec and we're going to do this instead?
Of course.
Yeah.
Anybody? Oh, I'm so pumped about this. So you guys know we did this race in Sharjah, and we built this fleet of 7-inch drones.
80 drones.
Yeah, there was 80 of them. There are 51 that currently test arm. Here's one.
There it is.
There's 51 that currently test arm. We think we can get the fleet back up to about 64 with the equipment we have on hand. But there she is. It doesn't have a name. We were so busy with trying to put on this incredible race that we didn't even name this drone. There were people who were like, what's it called? We're like, we don't know, and we don't have time to figure it out. But this is the drone. It's incredibly beautiful. And at I.O., you're going to have the opportunity to race with one of these drones. We're going to do a stock race on Thursday night. That's what's going to take the place of Freedom Spec this year. And so the way it'll work, there is a fee. You'll buy an extra ticket, and that ticket will get you entry into the stock race. There's a limit of 48 spots, so only 48 people can participate in this. You'll have tech ops there ready to help you get set up on your drone and get your rates put in and qualify. Amari says call it the Racer 5.
I like that idea.
Yeah. My favorite name for this drone, I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. My favorite working name that got suggested, maybe I suggested it. I wanted to call this the Breacher, but I decided against that.
What an
Yeah.
asshole.
But, just because it can breach things like Windows and stuff like that. But no, I don't think we'll call it that. But yeah, so there's going to be a stock race at I.O. You can sign up. That race will feature Gym Fan props, and I'm super pumped about it, guys. If you want to know what it was like to race in Sharjah with these drones, that's going to be your opportunity. Anyone and everyone. You are required to have an ELRS capable radio and HD0 goggles. And if you don't actually own those two things, I bet you can find someone at I.O. that'll partner up with you and help you out. So,
Mr. Neil, when Carl gonna send you goggles?
I'm still waiting on Carl to send me my goggles.
Carl, Neil needs to raise the Sharjah drones at I.O.
Hey, Neil, you can borrow my goggles.
Oh, beautiful.
Do you have HD0 goggles?
Carl to send me mine, though.
Who used your goggles at I.O.? Did someone, or not at I.O., but at Sharjah? Did someone use your goggles in Sharjah?
Banny raced the whole event in my goggles.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
How about Banny UK, you guys? Like, off the couch, came and whooped ass. Can I say ass on this podcast?
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
We on this Sean, on this podcast we even showed Assassin's DVR, so like you can see.
Yeah,
true.
No, I think that was very impressive to see him, like you said, come off the couch. I mean, it's not like that he hasn't been flying. He's been doing a lot of cinematic work, but I guess it just goes to show that the guys doing the big cinematic work are there for a reason, that it is control of your quad ultimately that gets you that work and ultimately what makes you go good around a racetrack. And like That is was very impressive to see, though, for sure.
Yeah. And that's credit to Chris. Chris was like kind of late in the process of fielding the pilots. Was like, how about Banny UK? And I'm like, Banny UK? Like, really?
I know that was actually Sean.
What's that?
Sean
The
was
movie- the movie guy?
You gotta have Banny here.
No, it was totally you, Chris. And but he won the big race in Dubai in 2016, right? So it was a very natural thing. But anyway, a lot of credit goes to Chris for recognizing that.
I also want to say
Sean Taylor,
something.
nice.
I also want to say a little bit spicy. So you're all like, oh, Bunny UK is like still has a skill. Of course, he still has a skill, but I also want to say that the simpler the track you fly, the less your skill matters. Like if you're gonna if you're gonna fly oval, right? After 10 oval laps, I will be like 1 second behind Evan Turner, right? But you add a couple more gates, I will be more behind Evan Turner. You put 20 gates, I will be 3 laps behind Evan Turner, right? And that track you had in Sharjah is pretty damn simple. So I don't think there was a lot of opportunities to show a big skill gap in Sharjah, right?
The key you said was behind.
Yeah.
Of
In
course.
both examples. In both examples, you were behind Evan. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be behind, right? But like the gray screen and all the stuff, right? We're not talking sweet now, right now. But if I am half second behind Evan on average, right? You run 3 races or 5 races, 1 race, I'm gonna win, right? So there's more chances for me to win over Evan on the simple track, right? There's very little chances of me winning over Evan on a complicated track, but there's more chances on the simple track. And I think just the simpler the track MotoGP builds, the less
better it is. Is that what you said? That's what I heard.
Yeah. It could be better. It could be better. It could be worse. Like I think it could be better. It could be worse. Right? It's way better for spectators. It's much interesting, especially for pilots like I am. Right? But this is not the skill indicator, especially after the brackets. Right? Like Mr. Sean is so loudly typing.
It's spectator friendly. Not simple, spectator friendly, and I mean it was quite a spectacle. I was just impressed and proud of all of drone racing for putting on that event. I've always seen like multi-GP is like sort of a small grassroots, and to see you guys, in my opinion, like outperforming like even DRL for that live streamed event, like for us watching at home, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it should have been on ESPN or whatever, but like you guys have solidified and figured out the formula to making drone racing entertaining, all of the things that you did in between, getting the heats pumped out time after time, making the drones visible. Like I just couldn't believe what I was watching. It was awesome.
So you see, all right, so I want to address this comment. Gregory Hurst, he said that Evan will adjust. Like, I no doubt Evan is better pilot than me, but double elimination format and whatever format, it has random. And in my drone racing career in the past, I beat way faster pilots than me because of the random. And the simpler the track, the more chances for me to do that. You know, and that track was pretty simple. So
it's true.
Well, Johnny, let me address first of all what you said. I appreciate your comment because for many years with multi-GP, we've been pushing to drive drone racing. Most of it's for participation. And so, but many times multi-GP's been sort of like shoehorned into not able to do a live race, not able to put on a show, not able to entertain an audience. And that's not been the purpose of our championship. Our championship is to find the best possible pilot through our double elimination bracket, which I will challenge you is the best way to find a qualified pilot there is. But we set out with this one with the goal to put on a race to entertain an audience, to do a live audience. We've seen every possible attempt that's happened, and we were pretty confident that, we could do better. And so it was very, very rewarding to put in as much effort as we did to do that show and arrive to the finished product. I mean, we were blown away ourselves. We did not expect for that event to go as well as it did. But for me, sitting in that audience and watching the race at certain points was surreal. It did not even feel like a real thing. And I was so emotional and just blown away and satisfied at the end of it. I couldn't even talk to anyone without getting choked up. It was wonderful. Very, very wonderful experience in my life.
Yeah,
But
that was awesome.
to brackets, tell me how to do it better, because the reason you call it random is because you're not a very good pilot and you crash.
Yep.
That's what you're calling random.
Well, but hang on, but I'll push back on that. You can say me that I call it random because I crash a bunch, but Yvonne flies like a little bitch and doesn't crash and is able to like get further in races because he's better and controls his shit, and then just like lets people crash and then flies all slow and brings her across the finish line. And so like
they crashed. Look, there's a reason Min Chan has won the last 2 times.
Oh, so I have
Turner
a thing.
was a 3-time champ. Is that because of this random?
I have a thing to say about that, right? You can also say, for example, like there is a reason why Amari, even after double elimination random, he's still #1 in the Tiny Trader. So if you're that much faster than everyone, like Amari was a Tiny Trader, it almost don't matter which format you're running, you're gonna beat everyone, right? You're not gonna have a mid-air with anyone because you're so much faster at start. You're not gonna crash because you can slow down, fly comfortably, and still win the fuck out of everyone. So if you're that much better, it doesn't matter which format for, like, you know what I mean? And Evan is that, like, maybe not anymore. He's still very good pilot. I don't know how he stacks against Hyper and, you know, but Evan was a very fast pilot, like faster than everyone else, right? And that's how he won. But if you think about pilots that are fast but not as fast, right? Like I was at Ice Race, right? I qualified #3, and then I just like, well, I crashed one time, that was my fault, and then I had a mid-air with fucking Mando that was in the chat, right? And like he just bumped into me and I'm out. Like I ended up like #8, even though I qualified #3. And I've been on both sides of it, right?
You crashed because of your lack of skill the first time, but when that didn't happen, and then the other crash.
But it could be that someone else, like, right? I've been on both sides, right? And I've been butthurted about it. So if that's how I always feel. So it was a Champs. Remember that Champs was like the super windy Champs.
Oh, the one where you should have got 11th? Is that the one you're talking about?
I got like whatever. I think I got 10 or 9 or
and I got 11.
Anyways, like, so for me to get #10 at Champs is just crazy. Like there's no way. There's so many pilots that faster than me, and it's definitely more than 10 pilots faster than me at that Champs. And when I won it, I was pretty gassed up about it, but I didn't feel like that I deserved this win because of the double elimination format. So I've been on both sides. I did better at double elimination than I qualified, and I didn't feel good about my win. And then I did worse than I qualified in double elimination format, and I also didn't feel good about it. It just does not feel fair. It just feels like too much random. And if we do mains format, you know what mains is? You just qualify people, and then the bottom 6 pilots or 4 pilots who qualify, they race against each other. 2 people bump up with the next people, and then yada yada. And then basically what that format brings to the table is that if you qualified #2, you're not gonna drop below 4. And if you qualified #6, you're not gonna drop below #8 for your final position. And I think that's fair. This just gives qualifying like more weight. And it's just more fair. It's just way less random, I think.
Mondo said mains suck. I like mains.
I don't like mains. Mains were Joe Scully and I argued mains for years between double elimination and mains. And the reason I don't like that is because there are times where someone may not be a very good racing pilot, right? They can't race well, but they can qualify well. And so they might run a pretty good qualifying time, but the moment they get into real racing, they just completely break down. And that's part of racing too. Like,
I think you're overestimating that. There is very few pilots that can qualify good, and they just can't race. I don't know anyone who is that, honestly.
I mean, if you go back and watch the career of a pilot named Neukel, you can see that repeatedly.
Yeah.
And another pilot named Hyper. Like Mason, when he first started, was fast, but really had a tough time in competition, and he's just continually gotten better. So a lot of especially the pilots who come out of simulator, who the real life implications of Joe Scully in your ear and the pressure of racing, it changes things. They qualify high, they place low, but they don't place as high as they qualify until they really learn to also race in the game of racing.
Like I would argue, like you can say Hyper initially he didn't, he qualified good and then he didn't do good. Like that again, he didn't do good only because it's too much random, right? So if you are not the top pilot, if you're not that pilot and you want a podium at champs, you just gotta have to come to a lot of champs, not to actually get more experience, although that's good, but you just like, the more champs you attempt, the more chances you have to podium, right? It's just that. And like, well, Hyper didn't have a good luck his first years at Neukel, and they just didn't have a good luck. And then you run 5 champs, and because there's so much random, sometimes Neukel end up in the finals, sometimes he doesn't. Like that's, I think that's just how it works for double elimination.
I think if you believe this luck thing that you're trying to pitch right now, which I don't think you believe it, you're just trying to be spicy. You should send Evan Turner $100 and tell him to go buy some lottery tickets for you, because if it's all luck, that dude's super lucky.
I think he does believe
all luck. Right?
He does believe the luck, but he's very good at racing under pressure, but he also only credits it to luck. I've seen him perform under pressure like so many times, but he doesn't think that's a skill that he has. He thinks it's just luck. And
maybe the skill is disassociation, right? Like it could be just like a dissociative thing. Like
the data doesn't lie.
Now you're diagnosing me, like what's happening?
I think it's a mix. There is a luck component for sure, but there's also dealing with the nerves. And like the pilots that both of everyone mentioned, I know the first time that you hear, like you just said, you hear Joe Scully in your ear, like instantly your flight skill goes down by like however many percent.
That's for everyone. And the same thing happens in qualifying. Like if you're real qualifying at a big ice storm race, you're still fucking nervous. Like, and then you're a little bit more nervous.
That's what racing is. That is essentially what racing is. And mains take that away.
No, mains doesn't take. You're still nervous as hell. Like
it takes it away.
Does one take longer than the other, or is it the same time?
Yeah, the mains would. If you've done any of these big Velocidrone races with the mains, and you have 64 pilots running 8 up, it takes hours. So when you finally get to the A main, I mean, half of those guys have been asleep for 2 hours. You got to go wake them up. Then they're flying. There's no warm up pack. You don't get a warm up pack. You just right into it.
How does the math works? Like why it's like longer?
You know, back to back too. So think about when we do our
back to backs
is a killer for
that's a big deal.
That's the big.
No, we did a really big event with mains. We did the XTC race, the second one that was at the headquarters for Zappos with mains. And I mean, it can be fun, but anytime you have pilots bringing their own gear and they race, and then they're in the very next race, that creates a delay, which slows down throughput, which slows down the ability to do big events. Right.
Yeah. Back to back's a big deal. And I'll say that like variance is a good part of it. You know what I mean? Like if it's not variance, then we should just qualify, you know, like if there's not the head-to-head racing, the nerves and the luck factor and the heroes and the underdogs.
He admitted that luck factor.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it all plays like, yeah, it's not 0% luck. I would say that it's far less luck than it is just your ability to do what you have to do in the moment. But the variance is a good part. That's what makes it interesting, right? If it wasn't for the variance, and why even have mains at all? Just end effort qualifying. You know what I mean?
No, like you have to have at least some racing that your position in this heat counts. Like, of course, you have to do that, otherwise it's not interesting. And you have to add a little
That's
bit.
That's not fair because then it's not fair, Vaughn.
That's true, but that's true. But if you do only qualifying, then it's kind of boring, right? Like then Neil wouldn't be even racing. You have to have some heads-up racing. Like that's part of the game. Like
I like brackets because like people in regular sports understand brackets. Like it's relatively intuitive to people that have watched NCAA or anything like that. Like a bracket is pretty it's not Sharjah. In Sharjah it was like super simple, right? But I feel like the bracket is kind of the next layer deeper of simplicity that like a general audience can understand.
I also want to debunk that mains is slow. Did we run mains at this big Street League event in Houston? Well, that was mains all. It was mains all the way till the finals. Like the finals, they have their own little like weird format. But that was mains. 4 pilots only up. You can do mains 6 pilots up. Then it's even faster. But it was like 2 hours we done for 28 pilots. Like, wasn't that the math? Like that was pretty fast. So
yeah, we did run mains until the top 8, and then the top 8 we ran the Street League.
Yeah, something like this, and like that. Yeah, like that was fast. Like if you tell people, listen, guys, you gotta be ready. Get your second quad prepared. You can charge your batteries. Put that batteries on your spare quads. Be ready. Like, and then the Street League. Well, I kind of like Street League, right? So, and then Street League also have a timer that if you're not crossing the line in a certain time, then you're not racing, and like that's also doable.
Well, we plan our brackets at 1 hour and 30 minutes. Is what we plan a 16 pilot bracket at.
So let's do this.
That's with finals.
Lamont, I'm convinced on brackets, and since you're going to be at IO, pick a day and you can just run brackets one day on one of the tracks, the mains.
Like
one of the group races, Avon's group race.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Pick a day, pick a track. You guys are welcome to run mains.
Like the whole finals for like whatever, like a sport class or like.
I mean, it can't be an event that we've already established a rule book for. One of the things we do, because even if we don't like you, we follow our rule book. That's why we have rule books, because sometimes we don't like you.
Well, because if it's just some weird race, without prizes or anything on the track that you don't have to even fly, then just nobody gonna show up.
Like
there.
maybe, I mean, just to throw that back, maybe that could be the Freedom Spec race, though.
Yeah.
Like we could host a Freedom Spec race at
But then Neil, you gotta pay $10,000 to have Freedom Spec track.
I've got a spot.
Right here.
I've got a spot.
For free.
There's a spot. I do have a spot. So
listen at that. Look, we are making shit happen right here live. I like it.
You're talking about Thursday afternoon? What do you think?
There's that one day on the main stage where there's a big gap.
Yeah, Thursday afternoon.
Thursday afternoon.
It's at the same time as the stock race, but the stock race is also like, you'll just have like 1 hour that you go to qualify. So like people will go like 8 people at a time. I'll have to do the math, but I think it's 8 or 12, something like that at a time that go get set up, and then they get all of their 3 qualifying packs in. So you only like the qualifying for the stock race only happens for 1 hour for you. So that it would be a lot of free time for people generically. So yeah, that would be awesome. Main stage.
So it's like it will be like a main stage track. Can we do like a preliminary IO competition, like for fun and maybe for like 3 medals? I don't like how do you gonna name it? How do you gonna explain people why they want to win it? You know what I mean?
Le Mans Cruise brackets are better.
Oh, just brackets. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So main stage is being ran by. So you guys I'm putting you on the volunteer list, right? So Yvonne, if
Neil.
Hey, I agreed to run the like one event like for a half day or something. The rest is Neil.
Okay, well there you go. It's so Thursday morning. Or no, it was Thursday afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah, Thursday afternoon. Sorry, we do that. Thursday afternoon will be Neil and Yvonne running the main stage track. I invite everyone to go hang out with Neil and Yvonne at main stage for Freedom Spec Mains Day.
Hell yeah, I like that.
Perfect.
Hell yeah.
We'll got challenge coins for you for a second.
Yeah, some challenge coin or something. And the rule also, me and Neil also can race.
Oh yeah,
sure. Oh for sure.
Hell yeah.
It's
there
IO,
you go.
man. It's
just like Texas, when Le Mans races, he wins. How convenient on the for where that.
Well, not when like lately Neil been slaking, so now I can win for sure. But
if I can plug though, we are currently in the process of building our IO volunteer schedule. And last year, if you guys saw, if main stage, that's awesome. If you guys saw I love that. That's funny.
This is awesome. Yeah.
If you guys saw Tom Spicy and Johnny Fly, not Johnny Five, not to be confused, but Johnny Fly, they kind of championed a model last year where they helped run a track and still got all of their packs in. And so this year, Mark, Michelle, myself, we've been pushing really, really hard to get a volunteer schedule built where you're on tracks where you can fly. So it's like most of the people that are volunteering at IO are chapter organizers. Every single weekend we go out and run a race and race in that race, right? 99% of chapter organizers do that. And so we're kind of continuing that model, that mindset at IO. So if you wouldn't mind giving of some of your time, we could probably plug you in as a volunteer at IO, and you can still fly. Like we're shooting to have at least 3 people working each track, so you can kind of take turns running the computer, the flight line, repair a quad if you have to. But as you know, like at IO, especially on the World Cup tracks, like the throughput can be pretty slow. So why not help run the track while you're waiting for your next pack? So that's a great way. And if you're a tier 2 or tier 3 chapter and you have the hopes of being a tier 1 someday, that's actually a requirement to help run a track sometime at IO. So consider taking the plunge and being part of the coolest kids in the world.
Yeah. Can I have a minute of beatching to Malta GP? So
no,
I mean, it is your channel.
Disqualified. Copyright strike.
So it always pisses me off at IO. You come to qualify for main stage track and then whatever, and then the qualifying runs so slow unless you have Chris Perry running the line. I think if Malta GP could tell to all the volunteers running the track that they need to not care about pilots who are late, that they need to run on schedule, like 4 minutes, like 2 minutes between the heats, 2 minutes per heat. If you're not here, nobody gonna wait for you. If you're saying, oh, I just need to put a battery, I'm ready. No, you're not making it. And then just run it. It'd be so much better, because when the heats are running so much faster, if one guy misses his heat, it doesn't matter. The next heat coming so fast, but if you miss your heat and then the race director waits for everyone to be there, then it really hurts you. Then next time you're going to fly is like in 2 hours.
I couldn't agree more. So I've got the volunteer schedule pulled up. So on Wednesday morning, do you want to be on World Cup 1 or World Cup 2?
No, I already volunteered to run Freedom Spec.
Well, that's on Thursday. So on Wednesday, I'll have me and Callie are running World Cup 1. So I'm going to put you down on that one.
Well, put Neil there.
No, yoga. I got yoga in the morning. Sorry.
Oh, you can do yoga, no problem.
Hey, you should offer that as an extracurricular for the camp.
Should.
For the
9 a.m. every day. Well,
and
we'll
also
9 to 9:30 every day.
Why not?
I'm going to have growers yoga every once in a while.
All right.
And
is it hot yoga?
Sean, and
it'll be just whatever the air temp is. So it likely will be hot yoga, but just whatever we get. Yeah.
Warmish yoga.
Sean, and also like you can put me, but that's not gonna solve the problem, because you just gotta communicate it to other volunteers who are running qualifying that they just need to not care about pilots.
I'm just giving you a hard time, but yeah, that's great feedback.
Okay.
I think it's good for everyone to know. It's like the packs, there is no pack limit, right? At
Yeah,
IO.
exactly.
And if you cannot wait for people, I think that'll be a very fair thing to recognize.
And then, you could even say this is a Malta GP rule. You can't wait for people, so that then volunteers don't feel like they're dicks, because they're like, they're like, that's the rules. What I can do, like if I don't follow the rules, then Sean will yell at me. It's just I don't.
Mark, for the 2025 rule set, we should add the Chris Perry clause.
Okay, I can squeeze that in there.
Which
There we go.
gives permission for the volunteers to just shut you down.
Yeah.
The guys who run a lot of races, they kind of know, like, just move them out. They're not ready. Just run it.
I think Phil is also pretty good, but Phil, like, you're not as good as Chris Perry at the yelling at people. Like
Phil's not as good. That's the thing, is that Phil is a little too nice.
Yeah,
and that's why we love you so much.
Yeah. But you gotta stay nice, but when you run the line, you gotta be a little more asshole, like Neil, So all right, so guys, Mr. Sean, why you're not running So it's gonna be 7-inch spec, 1,280 grams. Why don't wanna run Street League firmware? Are you like, does it hurt you? Like, where does it Street League firmware hurt you?
We have no reason to do that. No.
Well, so people don't have to reflash, like.
Yeah, well, people need to practice flashing. I'm also, not super comfortable people flashing firmware out of a random Google Drive. So I just feel safer about them flashing that from, the configurator instead. I'm just joking around. Like,
Listen,
there's no need to really get into it, but you know that we don't.
Ivan, your mother and father both love you very much.
Yes,
it's not you.
Yeah,
not you.
Yeah. But I'm not going to Christmas at your grandma's house on your mother's side. Okay, we've been divorced, right? No.
But do you don't like boost also? Like, what's the?
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on boost on whether or not it actually makes the racing any better. Yeah, and that's their thing. We're gonna do our own things, and if you ultimately, like, obviously multi-GP, we're really striving to do more of these pro level events like we did in Sharjah. And if people want to be on the map in consideration to be involved in those races in the future, then we're going to give you opportunities to do that are independent of Street League. Like, we're not going to be looking for, this last time we seeded several pilots based on their performance at Street League. Like, we have no motivation to do that anymore. So we have to make sure that we do our own thing to find those top 7-inch pilots. So, and then ultimately the multi-GP spec that we develop, because we're gonna continue to do stock racing, but we're also gonna be launching a spec series. It's gonna look a lot different than what Street League is, and that's not to say Street League does what Street League does, and we're happy for them, but there's some holes there, and we're not gonna just do what Street League does to make Street League happy. Like, we're gonna do the best spec racing we can, and multi-GP is well equipped to do really compelling spec racing. We've got a team that really understands it, and we'll do some incredible stuff. So
is the new spec going to be pretty similar to the Sharjah drone that still doesn't have a name? And I understand
like the new spec, I guess. You're asking.
The new spec is that one is the one like in the future is going to be similar to that, because that was very spectator friendly. I understand it's not available now, but you might be able to buy it from 533 in the future sometime.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes, right? So it'll be RPM limited. It'll be 6S, because kind of like what we were talking about with tiny trainers earlier, having a big differential between the cap drone and the uncapped drone is very important for RPM limiting to even make sense. So that'll be a thing. The weight won't be arbitrary. You won't, I hope to get out of the business of making lead parts to put on drones that fly.
Yeah,
it's like the most counterintuitive thing ever.
He was smelting over there.
So yeah, there's going to be some differences. It's the stuff it's the kind of flying we really love. But anyway, yeah, it'll be different because we're not here to rip off Street League. We're here to do what we think is best, right? And so we would have been happy to continue our relationship with them, but they didn't want to do that. So we're not here to make anyone do anything they don't want to do, right? So at the same time, like, we're gonna push forward.
Except Ivan run a track. We want him to do that. Even
well, yeah, actually, he's already. I have him committed on every day now. He's on a track, so he'll be.
Hey, I thought my firmware development for IO counts as volunteering.
What?
It's good. Yeah.
No, you're gonna be a double volunteer.
If it doesn't count, you just have to send them an invoice for your development hours.
I see we have Mike Chin in the chat. Is it? I'm pretty bad with names. Is it the same Mike from TBS?
He's the chillest.
No, different.
No. Yes, TBS.
Cool.
Yeah,
all
TBS.
right. Yeah.
TBS, Mike. This is the killer of the generator, right? This.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mike, if you're still in the chat, like, because we had a FPV Spill the Tea with Strappy, I think it was half a year ago, and there were a lot of promises there made about what TBS is gonna do. Like, do you just drop some spiel in the chat about like what happened? Like, did you a new Crossfire? I don't know.
Full snort status from Johnny Five.
Yeah, like what cool you have developed, not particularly you, TBS, in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
People want to know, like.
They've created
but we want to I just want to emphasize that TBS is like a full, the biggest supporter of MultiGP, and that's very fucking important, I think. Thank you very much, guys, for doing that. Chris, what do you?
Trappy's been the easiest, coolest sponsor that I've dealt with since I started MultiGP. Most of my conversations are like, how many flags can we get and how many views of the flags, which I get, right? Business is business. And Travis is like, you guys doing racing? Cool. I'll be a supporter. That's just, it's an easy way to do business. And I absolutely
Nice.
So we have, I think that's it.
Hang on. Before we go away from 7-inch, I just got to say that I was quite disgusted with the separation of MultiGP and Street League. And I was pretty disappointed by the Street League team's decision to remove themselves from that agreement. I think it was a huge mistake. I think looking back on it, maybe they'll think this or not, but it opened the door for MultiGP to develop their own spec. I don't know if they thought about that or not. Whereas before, they had an agreement where Street League was the official spec to be promoted, and now it's not. And I kind of think that was not a smart move by the Street League team to allow the door to be opened for other 7-inch specs to take their place. And I kind of wish I would have been around to help. Not that I can really change people's minds, but I wish I could have been able to talk to everybody involved when that was happening, because I kind of think that was just sad, and that it didn't advance the sport of drone racing in any way, to have that separation occur. But it's happened now, and everybody's got to move on. And so Street League's going to still have Street League races, but what's now going to happen is that MultiGP is going to have their own 7-inch spec that is not Street League, and I just don't see how that does Street League any good. So before, I just had to throw that out there, that I was just rather disgusted by the whole separation. Yeah. And think it was an unfortunate move on behalf of the Street League.
It's not. Well, I'll say that I've been at most of the big Street League races, right? That have ever happened, right? I'm the only person to ever get third in a Street League season, and I invite the Street League guys to come out and be a part of MultiGP 7-inch.
Well, they should. They absolutely should.
Yeah. If you believe in this size of drone racing, I had conversations with the guys all along the way, and I told them that I really felt that Sharjah was going to be good for them, no matter what. And my favorite thing is after Sharjah, Paul Nurkula, who hadn't went to a grassroots drone race in years, after Sharjah, the next week he went to a freaking Street League race, right? Yeah. It was good for them, whether they want to admit it or not. And so it's drone racing. We're all going to go out and race our drones and have a good time, and that's. That's it. Maybe they need to schedule a trip to Costa Rica. Yeah,
everyone does.
Yeah. I also want to say that, whatever Neil said, you could see his face was upset, and you don't see Neil very upset often. So
no, I was very upset.
It was heartbreaking for me too, but even more heartbreaking to see Neil upset. So,
the most important lesson to learn here is that if there's ever a conflict, if you're ever dealing with any sort of conflict, the absolute best way to fix conflict is by having an actual conversation. When you start playing games of we've got to send emails and we've got to document stuff, that's the beginning of the end, right? If you're friends, you talk. If you're not friends, you don't talk. That's easy.
But it's also not very easy to figure out if CT is your friend or not.
That's the truth.
You know what I mean?
I'll give you that. Absolutely.
Because look at his face.
You'll definitely know if I'm your friend, right? Because I talk to you. Right?
Yeah.
But you definitely will know if I'm not your friend as well. So if you're confused, then good. That's the plan.
That's the crazy plan, to just confuse the fuck out of everyone. Then he's that's the goal of his life. He just puts a check marks every day, like how many people he confused today. Like,
I'm still trying to figure out if he's my friend and he lets me run his company, you know? Like,
The whole thing came as a surprise to us, right?
If you're confused, you're at least in the good side of it, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
going to be very clear if the answer is no.
If you know I don't like you, then at least.
Yeah. All right, we have a little quick talk. So John wanted to share this. John been very spicy. Let me add to stage. And so he wanted to share this meme about Velocidrone. And this meme says, Ashley Davis post from 2022. One of our focuses for this year is spec racing. This is the first. Expect there to be more. 2022 promised Velocidrone releases, and you can see Tiny Trainer here. And then this is John added actual Velocidrone release. So like, John, how do you explain you being an asshole?
Well, I've been back to racing in person a little more these last couple of weeks, but I had been taking a little break, and the only way to keep that stick time fresh was to really discover the plethora of online races that happen every week. You know, EDOC and Mr. E are putting on weekly races every Thursday, and if you look hard enough, you can find races in Velocidrone almost every night of the week that somebody's doing. And what a lot of times they're doing all different kinds of specs. There's different 7-inch specs. There's StreetLeague in there. There's all kinds of things. But what's missing is Tiny Trainer. And if you think about it, over the last several years, Tiny Trainer has been the one single spec in real life that has had well over $100,000, or who knows how many thousands, maybe not $100,000, but it has one of the biggest prize pools per specific spec. And it's not in the simulator, so you can't practice that. So all the people going to Ice Race just a few weeks ago couldn't practice that. And so I had to keep my stick time up during my little hiatus on simulator. And you know what? I promised that I was going to release Tiny Trainer onto the Shit Pilot live stream. And here it is, guys. I've delivered it. It only took 2 seconds. And it's on there, but we're still waiting for Velocidrone to do the same. And I remember you actually asked in the Velocidrone Facebook group like last week, can we please have Tiny Trainer? Because they keep releasing all these weird frames that nobody's ever heard of. And you got a pretty nasty response back from the Velocidrone dev.
Yeah, like I actually left that comment. Well, because I don't race Tiny Trainers often, but I came to Ice Storm race and I wanted to fly Tiny Trainer, like while waiting for other people to fly in real life. And so I put it there in the comments. I didn't know it was even a drama question or anything. Like Amari said, yeah, Ashley put me on a blast on that. Like he was like, quit asking that. It's gonna come. Like I'm like, oh shit, all right. Sorry, bro.
But like it needs to happen. Like if you would think of it as like if this was Gran Turismo, and instead of releasing like the Skyline or the STI, Sony just keeps giving you like the Toyota Camry and the Kia Sorento every year.
Hey, leave
and
my
it's like,
Camry
come
alone.
on, guys. Like nobody.
Yeah, I
cares
think the
about
difference
those.
there, though, is like Sony and EA Sports, Electronic Arts are like billion-dollar companies with giant staff, like hundreds of developers that work on each game. And like there is a staff of 3 that work on Velocidrone, just 3 people. So like, I don't know, like just race something else, right? There's a bunch of 3-inch shit there. If everybody runs the same 3-inch thing, like what difference does it make?
I can tell you the easiest way to do it. Right?
What's that?
You get a couple people to kick in a little bit of money and help to pay the developer, and they end up outsourcing the work too, and it will probably get done right away.
Yeah.
Right.
And to be fair, Ashley is a phenomenal like supporter of drone racing.
Yes,
like, he does
absolutely.
this because he loves this, the whole community of FPV and he's He's
Make sure to tip your simulator designer.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of wish that we could pay more. Like, I feel bad that I've only ever paid $30 for Velocidrone, and I've gotten years of use out of it. Like,
there you go. Actually, do a
kinda
subscription
crazy.
service. Yeah.
Yeah, I would pay it. Like, and I haven't signed on Velocidrone in months. Like, I turned it on the first time a couple weeks ago to start building a track, and but aside from that, I would gladly pay every month to help support that, because it's without a doubt the best training tool that we have, and more people need to. Well, I don't know, just more people need to support it.
Seeing that meme that Johnny 5 made, though, I'm starting to kind of wonder if maybe he's had some other Facebook accounts.
Sock puppet FPV right here.
I don't know.
Those are all great points, though, and then that's kind of why we do that. It's out of love, because what's the other solution? None of us are going to go start doing our weekly races in any of the other simulators, so we're all pretty much locked in and just waiting.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that I have nothing against Velocidrone. I love Ash. I just don't like simulators in general, just sitting in front of PC. Not because it doesn't feel right. It feels pretty good. Feels like my real drone, and I just don't like sitting in front of PC and grinding. And I recently, I want to proudly say that I recently found out that Orca Goggles has your hours count. How many hours you spend, the goggles powered up.
Oh, that's dope. I didn't know they had that.
And I have 600 hours, and that's 3 times more than I spend in Velocidrone. I'm proud to say that. So my real life
How many of those hours were preventing the brick reset?
Yeah. Yeah.
Only 2.
Womp womp.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, just making sure, because I've got about 5,000 hours in Kerbal, but that's not 5,000 hours of playing.
Yeah, that's true.
You
well,
can
also,
go to other things, though.
It's the same as Velocidrone, right? Some people have 1,000 hours of Velocidrone, but not every hour is actual flying, right? You leave it on the track, you leave it in track editor, and then it still counts. So it's the same with the goggles. You watch other people, sometimes they're laying on the table. So,
yeah, I probably have the most time in Velocidrone without actually flying, measuring all of Neil's tracks he sent me to build.
Amari has a very interesting relationship with Sims,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's given him a career, right? But boy, did he pay a price. Anyone that's put in the work to win a DRL Sim tryouts is that is a whole nother level.
Oh yeah.
He had a comment across the deal.
All right,
very nice.
Mr. Chris, your final words before we shut down the stream.
And my final words, I like the new Neil.
Thank you.
What about you? What about you, Mark? What's your final words?
Shanti.
Man, see you guys all at I.O. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what track Neil's going to give us.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I got some cool things I'm cooking. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. And you guys, if anyone doesn't know what is I.O., this is big drone racing festival. You don't have to win. Doesn't matter what your skill level. You come and you have fun for an entire week. You can do camping. So go to maltagp.com and there is the link for International Open 2024. It's coming in 5 weeks. And this is very fun. And if you want to see Neil, the I.O. is because Neil doesn't race anymore, but I.O. is the only race he comes.
I'll be there.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, guys. Yoga. Yeah.
Hosting yoga.
The Burning Man of drone racing.
Yeah.
That it is.
All right, guys, that's it. Ending the stream. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks everyone to Quad Dog for $999 super chat.
Oh, and T-Bell put a super chat. He wants that multi-GP firmware.
Oh yeah.
ASAP.
Yeah, I will. I'm working on it. Hopefully by the end of this week it's gonna be released. And
I saw T-Bell take a 5-inch quad to the face at I.O. 2 years ago, and he didn't even flinch.
Yeah.
And
we missed a super chat from T-Bell. How dare we are? Yeah, send me MultiGP firmware, please. Yeah, it's almost ready.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. All right, guys, thank you very much.
it was awesome. Peace out.